Welcome to the Blades and Bloodlines podcast. I'm Aidan Biasi, a 7th generation barber, carrying on my family's legacy in our 3rd generation shop, a fixture in our community since 1978. This podcast is about more than cuts and trims. It's about connecting with people who have incredible stories, fascinating careers, and vital perspectives to share. Every episode encapsulates an authentic barbershop experience, a bastion of free speech, likes of which you've never seen, and flows into a meaningful conversation, one that might just change how you see the world. So pull up a chair, sharpen your mind, and join the conversation. And remember, soon you won't be able to say anything. So while you have the opportunity to say something, say something. This is like a power couple if I've ever seen one. You know, on the one hand, we've got entrepreneurship in the gym environment with your shred sled, which I've had the privilege of trying, and I really like it.
Awesome.
And then with Jen, you've got quite a story to share, and that you're open about sharing it now, about how you have utilized carnivore to put into remission your illnesses. And so this is the thing, I might not even have to do much talking today. Is this all be on you guys? Because what could I possibly do to stop the flow of what's about to be happening? So I think we'll go ladies first, but without just putting you straight on the spot saying go, and we'll all just sit here and listen. Yeah. So firstly, you've got an accent, so whereabouts do you come from originally? What brought you here, and what brought you into the arms of Shannon as well?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, in the US.
How you doing?
Which is near New York. Some people don't know where New Jersey is. I've been here for 16 years now, and I met Shannon while I was on a holiday in Australia.
Really?
A 2-week holiday.
Just a two week
Just
holiday.
A 2-week holiday.
Just at the beach in Manly, or?
So he knows a friend of mine that I was coming out to visit.
Yep.
And they were at the time living together. Yeah. So by default, Shannon said, I'll come with you to come pick up Jen and my other friend, Jen, from the airport. And that was literally the first time I met him. And within 2 weeks, we sort of knew that it wasn't going to be the last time that we saw each other.
Compatible, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
That was in 2008.
Yeah. 2008, wow.
Yeah.
I was in year 5.
Year 5?
Yeah. I'm 27.
Yeah.
Quite young. But that's all right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so then I ended up moving out here the December of 2008. So we kept in contact. We had a few visits in between. Shannon came to visit me in the US. And I eventually, moved out here.
That's almost like a complete carbon copy of my missus, who's also a compatriot of yours from Texas, though, instead of the East Coast.
Yep.
Same thing. I went to visit a few times. She came here. But I know for her that she had to drop everything. Literally, she was on the plane crying with her bags coming here. I imagine that would have been quite similar for you too.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I was 22
when
I moved over here.
That's
still young.
That's really young.
This day and age.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. But I didn't have much keeping me there. I mean, I had a job. I had a pretty stable job. I was living with my sister at that point, and I had a car. So I literally just had to sell my car, quit my job, and
that was it.
Pack my bags. And I didn't have a house full of furniture or anything, so I had 2 suitcases that I moved over here with.
Yeah, and that was it. So it was quite
easy. And it
easy.
didn't. I don't know. It was weird, and I probably was upset, but I had nothing to lose.
No, of course. And when you don't miss home, or when there's nothing for you there, that transition is easier. Whereas I guess from my wife's perspective, she had everything. Hispanics are very close to family, so she was leaving absolutely everything. Her birthplace being 12 hours away, her parents and everything. So it's a big thing. So respect for that. And also, how many Sopranos kind of references do you get and stuff? Have you ever been to Satriali's?
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
I've got the full box set of The Sopranos, and still to this day, Jen she's not even that familiar with The Sopranos. Obviously, she know. And I said to you, you will not love a show more than if we sat down and watched The Sopranos. Oh,
especially since, and not what do I know, but from what I've read, because I was really young then. It was the first show of its kind. There was nothing ever like that. And obviously my missus and I watched it, and she's in love with it now. I don't think I could watch it again. It's a pretty dense show to just keep watching. It's very slow, but regardless. So tell us about some of the battles you've faced growing up. Obviously the autoimmune. we're quite jive a fair bit about that. Obviously, I have my issues, you have yours. You've been quite an influence on me, actually, pretty much in the last couple of weeks with your diet and everything. You've inspired me because I haven't met a lot of people that have really done what you've done, and not only done that, but shattered a mainstream argument of meat's bad for you. So walk us through. When did you first realize that you were, diagnosed with, was it Crohn's? Crohn's.
Yep.
So what was that like for you?
So like I said before, I moved out here in 2008.
Yeah.
And it was around probably not long into 2009, towards the end of 2009, I started having symptoms that were a bit strange. And from there on, it escalated very quickly. I won't go into details of what all of that looked like. But Crohn's disease, as you know, is an irritable bowel disease.
Yeah. Stomach and bowel, use your imagination.
Yeah, it can literally be anywhere from your mouth all the way down to your butt.
Yeah.
Basically. So Crohn's disease can affect people in so many different ways. Mine started off one way, and it definitely changed throughout the years of what the symptoms looked like. But I took, the typical approach to figuring out what was wrong with me, going through different diagnostic tests, blood tests, you name it. And it just came to a point where, Crohn's disease ended up being a diagnosis. I got a lot of different opinions, which I couldn't recommend enough for people to go to see different doctors to get a proper diagnosis, because someone might see it one way, but then if you go to someone else,
Something I haven't even done yet.
they might see it another way out, or just sort of give you information that you weren't told before from the previous doctor. So I saw 3, I think.
Gastroenterologist?
Yeah, I got 3.
Yeah. I think
opinions.
mostly because Jen didn't want to accept the fact, or
Yeah, I was in denial.
she's in denial.
Totally. Yeah.
I hear that.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, especially if someone tells you you have a cold, you'll accept that because you know it's going to go away. But if someone tells you you have an autoimmune condition that you're going to have for the rest of your life, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, it is a hard pill to swallow.
So I was in disbelief, and I thought, no, I'm going to go see someone else. And so, you look up people, I'm going to go see him, see what he has to say. And everybody was on the same page. They pretty much ended up saying the same exact thing.
So it was nothing different as well.
Which is fine. It actually led me to be able to then realize what I was going to do from there, because they told me everything I needed to know. The disease at that point, it was malnourishing me. I wasn't in a position of good health.
Because you can't absorb food,
Yep.
right? It's just going in, going out.
Yep.
So there's no absorption. So you're noticing weight loss, like discoloration. You're looking raggedy. You're not looking yourself.
Yep.
Which everyone, I guess, would have been looking at you thinking that you're doing something wrong, but really, it's a silent killer.
Yeah.
Because on the outside, externally, it looks like there's nothing wrong with you.
And the interesting thing about Crohn's disease and my journey, there were times, that I would look sick.
Yeah.
And then other times that I would look well, but I still wasn't well. And people would be like, "Oh, but you look great." It's like, well, that's not how I feel. I mean, I put on a brave face.
Absolutely.
But it's an interesting disease that if you're managing it well, you can probably look okay. But at my worst, I was not good. I was skin and bones and just no energy.
And Shannon, you were with her for most of this.
All of it.
All of it. Yeah. It's very. I have to take my hat off to the partners of people with conditions, autoimmune disease, like yourself, my wife. Mine can be particularly aggressive, especially with the skin itching. And I remember when I had to go on prednisone. I'm sure you're familiar with that. I just come off a course of 60 milligrams. But the first time I had to go on about that much, can't sleep. You're kicking the shit out of everything. I think we had to throw away 3 bins because I just dented them. It was just, and my wife, as I imagine you were too, is just absolutely like, what can I do to make this better? I'd give you my liver. I'd give you my small intestine if I could, So hats off to the partners.
Oh man.
But what are you thinking at this point when Jen's going through this distress?
Well, I remember the the time when they actually diagnosed her with Crohn's disease. And at that point I was actually relieved, right? Because she'd gone through, she wasn't well at all. She'd gone through, a gazillion different tests and all the rest of it. And then our GP at the time rang and said, Jen, I need you to come in and see me. It's quite urgent, so I'll make the time, just book us in. Anyway, he, at that stage, thought that she even had cancer, all right, because she had a part of her intestine which she ended up having, needed to be removed, and it had just ulcerated and fistulized so much so it was just this pus of like ball
Pockets of
infection, you know, and they couldn't really determine what that was. So, to be honest, like when you get faced with your I mean, we weren't engaged at that time, but the woman that you love essentially is possibly got freaking cancer,
of course,
and then to go, okay, what's Crohn's disease? You're kind of like, whew, you know. But I didn't really know what the Crohn's disease was either at that time.
Yeah.
You know. Look, from a partner point of view, like I, made sure that I was with Jen, every step of the way.
Yeah.
I think I literally like, whatever time I had to finish work, either early or start late, whatnot, I'd never let her go to an appointment by herself, just because she needed that, that presence and that support of, somebody, with her to help her emotionally sort of, come to terms, with what she was about to hear, but also the journey itself, it's a lifetime journey, as they,
of course,
make it sound, and you just kind of they need that support,
So those surgeries that you were getting, how many in total?
Couldn't even tell you.
Oh my god! And that's just keyhole day surgery. You go in, you come out. So I've had liver biopsies where you're in and out.
Yeah, no, mine were my first one when I actually had part of my bowel removed in 2010, which that was a 7-day hospital stay.
Wow.
I think it was like, I don't know, a 4-hour surgery or something like that.
Yeah.
And then from there on out, it was just infections after infections. Some of them were longer hospital stays.
Infections, like post-surgery infections, because they had done something wrong,
no,
or just
the nature of Crohn's disease,
right,
where I had mine, and this is getting into detail,
mm-hmm,
is called perianal disease.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally like the area around my butt is where I would get abscesses, pockets of infection, which stemmed from my bowel, stemmed from inflammation in my bowel that were just creating their own little tunnels.
Yeah.
And at one point I was in the hospital every couple of months.
Wow.
Every 3 months.
And still going to work and doing everything, even though your body, you're still not, at this point, you're still not eating. So did you then see like a dietitian or a nutritionist to see what you then can and can't eat?
Yeah.
So you had to then, you sought those people out, but then how then did you decide, what do I eat? How then do I proceed? Because you can't just not eat,
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So how did you then figure that out?
I did see dietitians along the way, nutritionists even, I think I saw at one point.
Yep.
Thinking that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And obviously my specialists being gastroenterologists, I constantly questioned them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there anything I can change the way that I'm eating? Because obviously you're digesting food, which is going through the intestine, that's the problem. And they continually told me what I'm eating is not going to change my disease or the symptoms of my disease.
And this was just standard Western diet,
Yes.
just bit of this, bit of that,
Yeah.
bit of everything.
We're pretty well. I'm not one for like takeaway junk food and all the rest of it.
No, you're fit people. You go to the gym, you train. So a bit of meat, yogurt, bit of this, bit of that.
Yeah.
On the weekend, you relax a bit. That
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And to be fair, coming from America, obviously I grew up on a standard American diet, which we all know is going to kill you at some stage.
I do know.
And it almost killed me. Like, I grew up on your typical like Frosted Flakes, Cheerios, all of
Captain
your
Crunch.
packaged foods. And it's like, you look back and you're like, no wonder I'm in this position.
Of course.
So I think when I moved here, I kind of had a bit of a wake-up call, because Shannon ate much better than I did, just I think basically being in Australia.
Yeah.
So I did have a massive shift in the way that I started eating, even just moving here, and then coming down with this and realizing that what I'm eating is either going to help me or harm me. We became very aware of what our options were, and dietitians would tell me the usual, like, eat your brown bread, your brown rice, and your green veggies and things like that. And I had never been more sick than when I was doing what they had told me to do.
Yeah.
You know, I was even almost a raw vegan at one point, thinking meat was the problem. I did hit a point where I thought meat was the problem.
And were you almost kind of at one point just scared, just whatever you ate, that was just gonna, how's this gonna affect me? Because I know that's happened to me too. Will this flare something? I don't know, because the nature of the stomach, nature of the liver, anything around here, it just seems like it's very temperamental. You don't know how it's going to react, and that just puts you in such a terrible headspace. So at this point, I imagine what you're battling, some kind of depression and anxiety. Now, probably very much so. And you're on medication at this point as well?
Yeah, for most of the Crohn's journey, I started on prednisone like you have been on. And then I refused medication for a very long time, which my doctors did not like me for.
Yeah.
They wanted to put me on Imuran, which is a drug.
I'm on that now.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah. And then I was on biologics, so an injection every 2 weeks. But they had to really convince me that was the way to go.
Did you feel better when you were on them though?
No.
Okay. Oh wow. So they didn't alleviate anything?
No.
Oh wow.
Maybe initially. I mean, it's hard to look back now. But in the long term, no. I ended up being a lot more worse off.
You've got the side effects of the medications too on top of that.
Yeah. That's the reason I never wanted to be on them. I couldn't see through the fact that they could help me. I was more worried about how they could harm me.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing it because I was in a place of desperation, I'd say, thinking that it would help me. And
were you ever of the thinking, like I was at one point, but then again, I kind of discovered my illness around the COVID pandemic, at which point I'd already started to becoming more consciously aware about all that kind of stuff. But were you ever thinking at one point, like, I hated how they're profiting off my illness, and who's to say that they didn't create this from the stuff that they're making us eat and the upside down food pyramid, or anything else they decide to give us that says good for us, but it's not. Did you have that kind of conflict inside you too? You feel like you're just another cash cow for the pharmaceutical companies?
It's an interesting question. I don't think in the beginning I did.
No.
Would you say in the beginning we weren't there yet?
No, we weren't. I mean, you resisted the medication purely because of, I mean, you were aware to the point where there was obviously other side effects, to taking medication.
Yeah.
And also too, obviously, Jen was, at that age where, we were talking about children. We would have loved to have had children, and, God willing, we may still. But obviously the Crohn's disease has been a massive roadblock for us.
Of course.
And especially not only the condition itself, but when you are on these immune suppressant drugs, damn, I mean, it's a real consideration when you think about falling pregnant.
100%.
But I think as the journey went on, probably just before COVID before COVID, I knew that they didn't have my best interests.
No, of course not.
Up front.
No, and the doctors kind of almost laugh at you when you talk about going different routes. I mean, I've mentioned to my doctor about going naturopathic routes and everything, and he just kind of puts his hands up and goes, do what you want. I'm not advising it. You can't come back to me if it doesn't work, kind of thing. Like when I say, I'm going to try a new diet, he goes, I'm not a dietitian, but just make sure you take your meds, whatever. Or I'm going to try chlorine dioxide, which is something I tried for a long time, and he goes, I would not recommend that, but, do what you need to do. He's just pretty much saying all I can do is what I'm doing now. I can read your bloods, I can tell you what meds to take, and that's it.
Yep.
And he kind of says the rest is up to you, but it is up to us. But having said that, though, they need to be working with you as well. And is that the conversation you had with your doctor when you started trying carnivore? So this is the big talking point for me, and this is what I think is quite earth-shattering right now, is that it's become into the mainstream a little bit. I think the doctor that you got me onto, is it Matt Baker? What's his name? Sean Baker, sorry, was on Joe Rogan, and that just exploded everything, as for many people that have been on his show that brought stuff into the mainstream. So what made you make that lifestyle change, or when did you decide to do it?
So I should have looked this date or this time frame up, because like I said to you, it's also wishy-washy for me.
Roughly. A rough day. It doesn't really matter.
I know at the stage of my Crohn's disease that I was in, I was on the 2 medications, and I had been in hospital so many times. And it got to a point where my specialist, my gastroenterologist, was scheduling me to have visits with a stoma nurse. So a stoma is where they take your bowel out and give you a bag.
Give you that bag, yes,
Yep.
yes.
So they were conditioning me that this was my only option.
Yeah.
That the medication wasn't working. I was continually in hospital, infections that, you know, I nearly died from sepsis from one of them. And I thought, I was sitting on the front porch one day and I was just so distraught, thinking there's got to be something else. And I just started researching. I couldn't even tell you the first thing that I came across, but I started reading about people's success with the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
Specifically Crohn's disease. And I thought, I hadn't heard of it. Nobody's talking about it around here. It was kind of becoming, you know, big in America. And I thought, I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I did it all on my own. I didn't have anybody to consult with. There was no doctors or even naturopaths at that point out here that were even looking into it.
Yeah.
So I got a few books, just did a whole bunch of reading online, and I literally jumped head in. I had nothing to lose.
And what was the initial, well, for me, I know the struggles now is I want fruit, I want something sweet, I want variety. But however, I think being on Western diets for most of our lives, I think we're all very much low-key addicted to sugar. And I just want it with everything, because after a big heavy meal, I want some ice cream. And so what was it like trying to then change your perception of food from this is entertaining me, this is comfort, to just this is just solely the joy's out? Well, you can still enjoy eating meat, but the joy's out of it essentially. To like, does it hit the bliss point for you still, or is it kind of just meat again?
No. I was probably at rock bottom.
Okay.
You would probably agree.
Well, you were. Just to backtrack a little bit before she did the carnivore, mate.
Course.
She, I mean, as she said before, she went mostly plant-based, and she went pretty much bloody vegan at one point, but she also did paleo. Then you did this thing called autoimmune paleo.
AIP.
So she literally tried every way of eating.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's when she was like, okay, bam, like they want to take my bowel out. I'm going carnivore. And she went in, mate, like head first.
Okay.
Right. She went in head first. And
Just
Matt,
cold turkey.
Gave up pretty much everything.
There was nothing that could make me cave, because my life was on the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
My being was going to change, as in my bowel was going to be taken out and I was going to be given a bag. Like, if that's not enough to scare you to think that your whole life is going to change.
Or at least to try a Hail Mary and just try something else. What do you have to lose?
What did I have to lose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
That's okay.
I went into the Fairlight Butcher,
Yep.
where, you know, he's been very supportive of us in terms of our meat. I said, listen, mate, I haven't shopped here very much in the past, but my wife decided to become carnivore, so I'm going to be your new best customer. And ever since we have been, you know.
Music to his ears.
And Jen said, I need liver, I need kidney, I need meat, I need this. Like, she didn't just go for the top T-bones and all the rest of it. Like, she was going to go deep into, you know, all the other organs and whatnot, which, you know, are hugely beneficial in terms of, you know, their
nutrient density. It's an absolute gem of a nutrient density. I take mine in capsules.
Yeah.
So I still can't stomach the I tried to freeze it. I tried it with honey. Look, it's just not palatable. I can't do it. So
it'll take time.
Capsules will do for me.
It's a good start.
But I was going to say, like, I never missed anything, because for me, I think my mindset was that if this is going to heal me, if this is going to give me a better quality of life and not be reliant on Western medicine, or live every day scared that something's going to flare up and it's going to put me, you know, back in the hospital. For me, my mindset was like, I'm happy to eat this stuff. Like, I don't miss eating cake. I don't miss eating fruit. If this is what's gonna create a better me, then I don't know, my mind just completely went into a different mode.
And since it's been a little while now, you slowly introduce a bit more fruit now and a little bit more, but it's what, like 10% of, not even 15, a quarter of your diet now?
Yeah. And I did 3 years of strict carnivore.
With no fruit at all?
None.
Wow.
No cheese, no milk, no nothing. I just did meat, eggs, butter, and organs, and oysters. I ate a lot of oysters as well.
Oysters, a bit of seafood when you can.
Yep.
But do you think you could have broke it a little bit earlier, or you were just so focused on just being, I just have to ride this out? Yep. So how long into it did you kind of discover remission coming and everything?
Look, within a few months, I felt better.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even
Okay.
within a month, I would say that I probably felt better.
Okay.
But yeah, easily within 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't
And
that...
my doctor's appointments got further and further apart.
What did they say as well when you told them I've been eating nothing but meat? My cholesterol isn't that much higher. I should be on statin right now.
Yeah.
What was there? They would have been
Look,
gobsmacked.
yeah, they didn't believe me. I think my specialist...
Believing you, God.
They didn't believe me. My specialist was in disbelief, really, but didn't have anything positive to say about it or negative. He was very impartial about the whole thing.
Okay.
So I really didn't get much from them. And to be fair, I stopped seeing them.
Yeah.
I took myself off my medication, which I know you're not meant to do.
Oh, wow. So, if you had no inflammation markers, why did you need to be on them still?
Yeah,
I suppose. So did you just tape it off yourself?
I did.
Azathioprine, you tape it off with him with the Imuran.
Yep.
He was happy to let that go.
He let me do the Imuran.
Yeah.
He was happy to monitor me while I took myself off Imuran.
Well, because there's no need to be on it anymore. There's nothing else happening.
But also, actually, I stated my case to him because that was a time when I was in hospital every few months having another infection drained. And I said to him, these are immune suppressing drugs. So explain to me how my immune system is actually supposed to protect me and help me fight these infections when these drugs are lowering it.
Yeah.
And he kind of agreed. And I said, would you agree to let me come off of Imuran to give my immune system a chance to try and fight this infection that keeps coming back? And he was supportive. He's like, yeah, that's a fair point.
Okay.
But I stayed on the Humira, which is the injectable.
Okay.
So he was supportive in a way. He knew it got to a point where I had to become my own advocate.
Right.
And I kind of wouldn't take no for an answer. So I think he saw that in me and said, look, if that's what you want to try, I'll let you try it. Okay. Or I'll be supportive of you trying that.
Awesome.
So yeah, I slowly started to taper off, and it got
side
better and
effects,
better.
Tapering or anything. It was.
Yeah.
Were you on 100 milligrams or even more?
I think
50?
I was 50.
50. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It changed a lot throughout the years, but yeah.
And so you're really far in now. So what are you enjoying more now that you couldn't previously enjoy? Because it would have kept you. I guess. You wouldn't have even wanted to go out.
No, we didn't.
Not in social.
Yep.
So what are you enjoying now that you couldn't previously enjoy before?
Do you know what? We don't go out to eat much.
Nice. Awesome.
I still see food as nutrition for your body, not something to go out and, I don't know, experience.
Yeah, I understand.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would much rather cook a steak at home, knowing that I know where it came from and I know what it's been cooked in.
Yeah.
But there's nothing much that we really enjoy out.
Look, we just don't eat, Chinese and Thai and all that sort of stuff. I mean, pizza every now and then, on the rare occasion. Jen's still been American, got a suck. She's got a soft spot for that. But I mean, even myself, I don't have any autoimmune conditions. But what I have observed is that because we've been eating the way we've been eating for so long, that even if we do go to someone's house and have something we don't normally eat, like for instance, like even potatoes, for instance, they just tear me to pieces the next day.
Well,
right? So if I went out and had Chinese or Thai or something like that with friends, mate, I can't even tell you what I'd be like the next day.
It's just bloated and sluggish and lethargic. Yeah,
and just completely just throws sort of your movements out. Your bowel. I mean, they are considered a nightshade. I believe the potatoes are. So they are already inflammatory to a degree. But I didn't realise how inflammatory they were to me until I stopped eating them and then introduced them again randomly. So if that's doing that to me, what's it doing to Jen?
Absolutely. But also having said that though, that doesn't mean no one eat them. It's, you got to work and see what's best for you.
Absolutely.
Because I love potatoes.
It's not a one size fits all. Absolutely
not.
not.
Yeah.
I like my potatoes.
But it's interesting too. Like so many people say, when I would explain to people that I went carnivore and they're like, oh, no veggies, no fruit. And I'm like, no, carnivore. Carnivore is like meat.
Yeah.
And, it's an interesting thing when people say, oh, I couldn't do that. I would miss this. I would miss that. But
well, you do. Well, it's true. You do.
You do, but you need to remember why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, I I saw the end goal of being healthy and not having the issues that I was having. So I don't know, I put that to the side. Like I put those thoughts to the side, or else it's going to kind of eat away at you every day.
Of course.
Like it's going to wear you down. It's going to, your willpower is just going to get lower and lower and lower.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's funny. The mind shift is really interesting.
Did exercise play a really big role in, because I say, even for me, you got to train, you got to run, you got to exercise. I always tend to feel a lot worse and sluggish if I haven't trained.
Yep.
So was it really hard to exercise when you were in the, at the zenith of your illness?
Yeah.
You just didn't want to?
I think there were weeks or months or maybe even years where I couldn't.
Just couldn't train
to the level that I wanted to. No. I think if I looked back on my journey so far, it was definitely like this. Like I was either up here or I was down here.
Yeah.
Being in between kind of didn't exist to me.
Didn't really exist at all.
Yeah.
It was a real life of extremes.
Yeah.
And obviously with the whole, it's a nice transition from training to the gym. Shannon is a gym entrepreneur. My sister and I have actually had the pleasure of using your apparatus.
Yeah.
And well, for those that don't know, tell us what exactly it is that you have invented and how it can help, or what kind of need is it servicing?
Well, it's called the Shred Sled.
Yeah.
It's a mobile device, multifunctional mobile device, which is basically been designed to build core strength.
Yeah.
It's very hard to obviously describe it without seeing it, and obviously
I've used
yourself,
it.
you've used it. If you were to say it was a sled, people will typically think about those push-pull sleds that you can put weight on.
Sled is in the fact that the bottom's flat and it slides, but the top of it's not really sleddy though. There's all these nooks and crannies in there for you to put your bits in and little ledges and that. So it's
correct.
It's sled, half sled. Half is.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a better way to another thing to call it anyway. So
that's a sled.
But look, its its primary focus is on core strength. But unlike other devices, like the ab roller, for instance, that's a one-use device. You do 3 sets of 10 if you can even do that amount, because that's quite an advanced apparatus. You sort of walk away from it.
So do you have a fitness background as well?
Not
you
at all.
Have no accreditations or credentials in fitness?
None.
So what
none
drives someone to design something like this? Because this is very entrepreneurial. Like, even just looking at the design, I wouldn't even begin to know how to sketch it.
Yeah.
Or how did you? Were you were sick with your ab workouts and you thought, man, I wish I had something different to do?
Look, I got the inspiration from a trainer that Jen and I used a few years ago, and we used a Bosu ball to do a particular single-use exercise where we just basically had to drag the ball using our hips, straddle it, and use the Bosu ball as it's got a flat bottom.
Yeah.
And almost like a knee tuck in a way, except your hips and legs are out like this, and it felt like it was hitting the spot, but it also felt like it was really not ergonomic at all, and sort of do a hip injury or a back injury. So I started to think about what I could do to recreate that exercise in more of an ergonomic way.
Yep.
But again, it can't just be a single use device in a way. So I just started putting this thing together and changing the angles and blah blah blah.
Like drawing it out.
I drew in my head my initial sketch as to how I thought it may look, and then I just got a whole bunch of foam, D-grade foam, which is used for, it's quite a dense foam, which is used for staging and all the rest of it, and started cutting it to size and gluing bits on it. I made my original proof of concept prototype.
Yep. Is that the one we use?
No, so the one we use.
That's the finished product?
Well, there was. So the black one, that's what we believe will be our market-ready prototype. So that's what it's going to look like when it goes to market.
Yeah.
And the other one was the prototype previous to that, which essentially is exactly the same in terms of it's the way it's used. It just doesn't look like that polished market-ready.
Yeah.
Prototype.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's more of a rough and ready prototype.
Yeah.
So now my original proof of concept prototype, although the angles and whatnot are the same as where we are now, it was very
it's finishing touches.
Yeah.
So is that going to be like in stores for people to buy, or will it be more expression of interest, because it is a pretty not elite kind of thing when we used it, but there's a lot of different ways to use it. I kind of feel like is much better if someone's instructing you.
Yep.
Like if someone just got for Christmas, I got you a shred sled. Like, all right, how do I use it? What do I do?
Yeah.
What surface do I need? How do I put weights on it? So it seems like something that would be way more functional for a gym.
Yes.
Like you guys train out of the boxing gym. We've had Marco on before. That's the pride and joy of that place right now.
He loves the shred sled.
He loves the shred sled.
Yeah.
Finds it very difficult to use.
Well, it's challenging, you know, and not only that. I mean, obviously, Marco being a professional boxer, he understands, you know, the importance of core strength.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we could give Marco a dedicated 45-minute or to an hour session just focusing on core strength, but different exercises to keep him interested, you know, he got a lot more enjoyment out of that and satisfaction than doing, you know, a multiple, you know, plank and sit-up variations.
Yeah. And so so you're at that stage now where you still can't be showing the design off too much, or you spoke to me briefly when my sister and I went to train with you about the patenting process.
Yep.
So that, I think a lot of people will probably be quite interested in how that all works, like patenting, trademarking and stuff. So if you were to patent this in X amount of countries, does that then mean that you can then sue if people decide to do something similar or rip it off? So how does that all work?
Yeah, that's correct. So just to back it up a little bit, where we've gone now with the device that you use, that black manufacturer ready prototype, I obviously came up with a proof of concept, but I had to engage in a commercial, designers to get me there.
Yeah.
So I used an outfit called Outer Space Design there in Melbourne. Unbelievable team to work with, and you know what they've come up with. You know, we just love it, and so does everybody that uses it.
Outer Space in Melbourne. I'm going to put them in the description of the video as well. Put them in as well. Give them a shout out for their good work.
Phenomenal to work with.
Phenomenal
to work with. Yeah, and we're still working with them.
Okay.
Because because we've got to that stage where through the different prototypes, you need to use them, you need to test them, and then identify anything that you may want to change. So that's why prototyping is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So now we've got to this stage. So as we're pre-manufacture, once we're finished with this phase that we're in at the moment, which is, you know, market adaptation, you know, will the market adopt our product?
Yeah.
Then we'll go to them, okay, all right, let's put it out there to manufacturers and all the rest of it, and see where we go from there.
So what's the end game for it? What do you want bottom line to come of this thing that you've designed then?
Well, look, I mean,
is there a monetary goal you want to reach with it as well?
Well, I mean, obviously, like anything, anybody that's, you know, entrepreneurial comes up with something.
It's a good byproduct. You hope so.
Well, obviously, I'm hoping that the market adopts our product. Yeah, that's obviously the end game. You know, we've certainly put a lot of time and effort into it, and the patent process. To go back to that question is I mean, that is an involved process in itself. You know,
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, you know, and it's been an educational one for me. You know.
So 100%. Did you ever think when you were young, or when you were maybe a few years ago, that you could because anyone can be an entrepreneur. Really, this is entrepreneurial, like in a sense. But did you think you had that in the back of your head, that you had the capacity to be able? Did you just sit there and think to yourself, man, like, I've created something that's really cool, you know?
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, I've you know, had my own business, you know, for over 20 years in terms of, you know, the building industry and whatnot. So I've never been one to sort of, you know, want to necessarily be on the boob of someone else, you know.
Well, and there's a really, how do I put it? When you work for yourself, that already kind of sets in a precedent for the way that you work. Because, like you said, you're not on the boob of anyone else. You've managed people. You know how to run a well-oiled machine. So I think it wouldn't be then a very big jump from running your own business for 20 years to, all right, to kind of create something to fill a need in the market. I feel like that's a very natural transition. And you see that a lot with people that work for themselves.
Yeah.
They're very easily able to create, because you know, they do it all the time. Managing people, creating your business. Yeah. It's very hard. And a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm naturally creative anyway, just in the industry that I've been in. You know, there's a fair bit of design and problem solving and all the rest of it. but to create something completely left of field of the industry that I've been in for 30 years, sounds a bit weird. Maybe I should have invented something in the building industry, but to be honest, the building industry's a damn grind, mate.
There are a lot of tradies in here, and they're rough for a reason. It's getting up all hours, rain, hail, or shine. Well, not really rain, but hot, cold. A lot of them I think got every right to be grumpy.
Look, mate, and the toxic dust and the dangers of heights and this and this, the conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's a great industry. Don't get me wrong, and I do enjoy working in it. But I'm pivoting to an exit strategy.
Absolutely.
And,
are you still on the tools now, or you're looking to get off the tools, as you said?
Well, no, I'm still on the tools.
You're still on the tools.
I'm still on the tools. Yeah. But obviously, I'm more passionate about this than I'm about building, put it that way.
Well, of course, I would say I'm the same with my little baby here than with having to, next, what are you having next, what are you having in the barbershop? I understand.
Yeah.
And with the little cool juxtaposition, you having to have been a supportive partner to someone with an autoimmune disease, you having to be a supportive wife to an entrepreneur, was there a lot of stress with Shannon going through this kind of thing, or was it a pretty smooth process?
No, look, I think I was involved with it, with the design and everything a fair bit, and still am.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is his creation, but I'm there every step of the way.
Awesome.
So it kind of just felt easy to be a support system for him.
But it didn't take too much.
No,
because you don't really seem like someone that will lose their temper very quickly with frustration and stuff. Like, you just picture at the desk, like, nah, that's a shit design, boom, and then the bin in the corner gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You seem very cool, calm, and collected, and that it doesn't faze you too much.
Look, fortunately for us, through this whole journey, we've had really, really good people to work with. Like I said, outer space design. Yeah. Couldn't speak more highly of them. Obviously, and then there's the legal side of it with intellectual property and our legal attorney, George Guziotis. I mean, again, he's just been absolutely phenomenal, and he is the one that keeps you on board with all the little bits and bobs, and he can speak to you in layman's terms. Some solicitors just sort of go blah blah blah, and you're like, okay, what did he just say? Yeah. So, to be honest, it's been quite effortless. Yeah. Right. In the way that it hasn't really caused much stress on us at all, other than there's a fair financial burden.
But the prototypes and all the patenting costs money out of your pocket too.
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yes.
A lot of money.
A lot of money, okay.
Yeah.
But it's ongoing. You have to though, don't you?
Oh, you have to, yeah.
And so if anyone watching wanted to actually see how it works, is it not time yet, or can we put in come down to the gym and see it, or is it on your Instagram, or where, if people wanted to see? Because obviously it's very hard to talk about this thing you've created, but I know the people at home will be like, all right, so when can we see it? Yeah. So I was almost thinking, like, can you bring it in, but it's not ready to be on camera yet, or not yet? Look, not yet.
Because we're pre-manufacture, and there is intellectual property concerns, this and that.
Of course.
It's just even though I've got my patents are falling and whatnot, I would just prefer to be first to market and not have somebody try and copy it between now and essentially when we launch or do show people what it's all about.
Well, Shred said it has its own Instagram page, so
nice.
I can link everyone to that, and they can follow the journey, especially those in the fitness community too. Yeah. Well, look at that. Like, that's a very distinguished kind of couple here. So what's the plan for what's the legacy? So what do you be trying to tell everyone at the end of this? Because you've never really spoken much about your journey before. So did you think when I asked you on that it might then be a different path to take to be able to help people, and that could be the first step here, or would you rather after this just, you know what, I don't want to talk about it anymore?
No, look, I want to write a book about what I've been through. Yeah. I've only done one small step to work towards that goal, which is start to go through my medical records, because that'll help sort of remind me what I've been through and just start jotting things down. Because talking to you, I love to share what I've been through. Oftentimes people don't want to hear about it because they think, oh, well, that just sounds a bit like cuckoo.
Well, if I'm completely healthy and I don't have any ailments, then I'm just going, oh yeah, that's a shame that happened to you. I'm gonna go home and really enjoy my my fucking pizza or ice cream now. But I can empathize, sympathize, all the phases. I really understand what you're going through, and like I said, you've been an inspiration to me. And that writing the book, that'll be a great step, because I don't really feel like there's been many people in that space that have been doing literature or anything, because I think they are too scared in a way to say that the medical system failed me miserably, even though that you couldn't get to where you are with them. And I was saying this to my last guest, the naturopath. I said, where do you draw the line between conventional and what you did, which is well, not even alternate. It's carnivore is the most ancient of diets that you can get. It's just eating what's available to you.
Ancestral way of eating.
It's an ancestral way of eating, exactly. And we can't exactly pull medical records from the Stone Age, can we?
No.
But have you looked into like editing, or like do you have a flair for writing?
No.
Do you know how you'd articulate?
Not at all. We've reached out to someone that Shannon knew about, a ghostwriter, purely to get how to start. I mean, I don't know how to write a book. I don't even know how to compile things to start writing a book.
It's a bit of a process, isn't it?
If I could get advice as to how to start collating my information or my ideas, that would be a great help, because otherwise I'm just going to, create a notebook and start writing things down.
I think that's definitely the first step, though.
Yeah.
My dad wrote a book as well, and that was watching him do that was just very much taking all the information that it was about, and then finding a way to then put it into something that things can follow. But when it's about you and you're writing about your experience, I find that's the easiest. I've done my fair share of writing. I always wanted to find that I wanted to eventually write something that would encourage kids not to drop out of school, but to say, hey, don't go straight to university. I traveled straight after school, and met my future wife, and I went on the journey I am now, and it's changed. It spectrum. It opened everything up, and I found, okay, so how do I start doing that? All right, well, let's go back to the beginning. Where was I? It's just a much easier process when it's about you.
Yes.
And even then, you can definitely write a book or two yourself once this all takes off, for sure.
Well,
he's going to have to help me.
Wow.
Honestly, his memory about my journey is so much better than mine. Because I think when you go through what I've been through, I block a lot of shit out.
Okay.
Because it was so traumatic.
So
he's going to play a big role in me trying to piece things together and to remember maybe what my state of mind was, because I won't have that. I won't have that ability.
Absolutely. And do you travel back to the US much?
We used to. Before COVID, we went back every 2 years. But haven't been back since 2016.
It'd be very hard. I know when I go, I find it very difficult to down the food when I'm there.
Yeah.
Even though it has a plethora of... The thing I love about America is you can get raw milk.
Yes.
You can get bison and stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever been to Texas, but HEB is a really, really, really great, massive chain of supermarkets. And you just go in and there's just everything there. America is really good if you got the right... the right kind of... outlets at your disposal. But I was even talking about Houston, for example. I was saying to my last guest about, you ever heard of the app Seed Oil Scout?
No.
So it's this one app that's based in America where you turn it on and it gives you a massive radius of where you are and which restaurants advertise specifically as not using seed oils. And I was saying to my last guest, it was very disheartening because in the whole Houston metropolitan area there was one.
Wow.
And it was really close to us. And I would go there all the time, and it was the best place ever.
That's awesome.
And I wanted to kind of say, when you do go back home, is that then not a burden to have to start cooking everything you do because you don't like eating out? But America's a very big eat out place.
Yeah. Look, 2016 was the last time we were back, so my carnivore journey started after that.
Right, okay.
So I haven't had to put myself in that situation yet.
Oh.
But I try, like my sister, she's got 2 kids, my nephews that live there in Florida. Oh. And I try and, drip feed her things about what to look out for over there, because they have the worst of options, but they also have the best of options. You just need to know what you're looking for.
And are they in their, your family in their journey of kind of consciously rethinking everything?
My sister is. I think she's got the awareness.
Okay.
But it is hard, I think, when you're surrounded by it.
Absolutely.
In the US, your options, the good options don't jump out at you as easy as...
No, 'cause you can't drive into a good option thing, can you?
Yeah.
But I don't really know what you guys' political views are, but, you know, RFK trying to change a lot of that stuff. I just, do you don't get too political, but do you think that would actually change, banning dyes and everything like that?
I think so. I definitely think so.
It's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And interesting you said that about the seed oils. I read something only recently that there's a whole bunch of chain restaurants which are going to be using tallow for their frying and all the rest of it now. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Obviously these dyes and colorings and all the rest of it. From my understanding, is that they're mostly banned in other countries. So why?
In Europe, exactly, most of them are exactly.
So why are these big corporations feeding it to the Americans?
Well, this is the big question: why are they being allowed to feed it to the Americans? And this is another big thing I want to touch on. Why does this corruption exist? Is this the big? Is it just for profit, or are they purposely profiting off people being sick? And did you ever think? And we know we mentioned this at the beginning, at one point, like, I'm being poisoned on purpose. Like, did you ever try and question where your illness came from? Mm-hmm. And
I did.
Where did that lead you to? What are the candidates?
Oh, I'll be careful.
No, you can say it. Our last guest was very much an anti-everything, so feel free to talk your mind.
Well, they're all still, I'll never really know.
We'll preface it by saying we'll never really know. However, there are some pretty good candidates.
My medical records, when I asked my mom to say, can you go back and get my records from when I was younger, some of my medical records indicated that I had been hospitalized for similar things to what now was Crohn's disease for me. So they mentioned many, many years before that there was a possibility of me having Crohn's. And I tried to link it to, I thought at one point I took the prescription for acne. Accutane as a kid or as a teenager. And Crohn's disease or autoimmune conditions are listed on that packaging as a side effect or a potential sort of issue. So I did a lot of digging into that. Tried to look at the timelines of things, but then, when it really kicked off when I was here, there's nothing that I could pin it down to as to why it really ramped up. Stress obviously is a big factor.
Anything and everything's a culprit.
Yeah.
Really.
But I'll never really know.
No. Well,
I do have my suspicions, but
neither will I. And I've got mine.
Yeah.
Too. It is a shame. But so you're completely symptom free now?
Yeah.
Nothing?
No.
You don't need to get bloods anymore or anything like that? Wow.
I was going to touch on though too. So about
anything you want, go on.
3 years ago, again, I don't know, what are we in 2025? I was diagnosed with another autoimmune condition called Graves' disease.
Graves' disease.
So it's a thyroid disease.
Yep.
So
but
a lot of
different
people.
To Hashimoto's?
Yes, a lot of people get Hashimoto's, which is hypothyroid. When your
so
thyroid's subpar.
Yep.
Mine is hyper.
Right.
So my metabolism, everything was running on overdrive. And again, I lost 6 kilos in about 2 weeks.
Right, because the opposite is then you become quite large.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Yep. And I was running hot. My heart rate was through the roof. And this was like during COVID, so it was a very stressful time.
Yeah, of course.
And I was diagnosed. I had symptoms for 2 months or so. I was kind of, again, like I pushed it out of my awareness thinking this cannot be something else.
What are the symptoms of Graves?
So I got insomnia pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, I been
was
there.
awful.
Yeah, that's really bad.
I was dripping sweat every night and almost every day because my heart rate was through the roof.
And then from your perspective, your partner can't sleep, it then almost makes you feel bad for being able to sleep. Because you know that she's there tossing and turning.
Well, that was one of the concerning things to me, and I knew something was wrong because Jen is, when her head hits the pillow, mate, She can wake up. She
like
can
my
wake
wife,
up in the same
jealous.
spot. You know?
Jealous.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Yeah.
But that changed. Yeah.
And
very
also
quickly.
too, even in the summertime, like she used to run really cold.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
she could have a doona on,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's winter and she's like like just spurning hot. So I knew something wasn't right.
I think it was June when the symptoms came on.
Okay, so Shannon's spidey senses are tingling. He knows something's wrong. You're having hot flushes. You can't sleep.
Yeah.
So then a trip back to the bloody fucking doctors again.
Yep. Another
God.
blood test.
Triggered.
Sure enough, yeah, blood showed hyperthyroidism. They call it that just as a symptomatic point of view. And
Okay.
then once they diagnose you or whatever, they'll call it an autoimmune condition, which is Graves' disease.
Yeah.
They diagnosed me in September with that, told me there's 2 different medications you can try. And again, I went through this whole like cycle again, thinking, here we go again. They want to put me on medication, telling me it's my only option
Yeah.
to control, to bring down your heart rate, because my body was in a lot of distress because my resting heart rate was like 120
Wow.
when normally it's,
And
60.
can you sit there and just feel it all the time, just pounding?
It was
God.
awful. And I was shaking, like I couldn't sit still. It was so bad. And it's hard to even compare. I don't know if that was worse or if my Crohn's disease was worse, because this onset was just like rapid.
Just overnight.
Yeah. And I went through trying different medications. One of them affected my liver. One of them affected my kidneys. So they quickly tried to rush me into surgery to have my thyroid removed.
And then so what
I said, hell
what did you-
no.
so what then came to the forefront? What did you use to combat that? Because this is kind of looking like the flaw in carnivore now.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
And that would have been such a blow.
To be fair, it was a bit of a wake-up call that, especially for women, going strict carnivore for so long
Yeah.
can oftentimes maybe play around with your body in a way that maybe you're missing something.
Well, it's definitely not iron or anything like that.
No.
You'd be good for that, because I know that's a common thing with women is iron.
Yeah. I just ended up looking into like adding a few more carbs back in, eating like sweet potato, honey, just being a bit more conscious of having things that will actually like refuel my muscles and refuel my body.
Well, the carnivore's more of a tool than a lifestyle.
Yes.
It just depends how long you need to use that tool.
Yes.
So what was it like having introduced carbs again?
Look, it was fine. I mean, I was happy to do so.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt better pretty quickly again.
Okay.
I'd have to sort of go back within myself and sort of look at what that looked like. But I worked with a doctor, a GP who was willing to work with me. And I said, look, I understand I'm on these medications, but I also need to sort of play around with my diet and other things. And eventually I want to come off of this medication. I don't want to be on it.
Yeah.
And she was supportive. She was a little bit funny. Like she thought I was weird. And she's like, yeah, because I was telling her what I wanted to do.
And you're sitting in like you always do with this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, obviously with the journey Jen's been on, and we've just become advocates for our own health. Now, probably one thing that she's missed there was these endocrinologists, right? That you see about the thyroid.
Yeah.
Mate, that's highway robbery, those people.
Oh yeah.
Right, mate.
Well,
What they charge just to read you your blood results, right?
Exactly like you're used to.
Yeah. Well, I
Right.
can read it myself now.
Well, exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's why Jen wanted just to find a decent GP that was willing to work with her. She knew what she wanted to get out of it.
Yeah.
And who was willing to go on that journey with her without these bloody endocrinologists. And you saw a couple of those. And one thing that she probably missed, which is really, really important with self-advocacy, is the pressure, right, that these endocrinologists put on her to have a thyroid removed.
Just surgery straight away.
Mate, listen,
Before
Christmas. It was just before Christmas, and it was these words that were like, the surgeon can fit you in before Christmas, but you've got to make a decision. Like the fear and the pressure to make you think that you need to do this right away, right, is unbelievable. But anyway, she's been through that before, and she knew to see through it. Yeah. Interestingly enough, Jen looked into a naturopath.
Yep.
Who specialises in women's thyroid and whatnot. Went to see him in Nutra Bay. Lovely guy, real good fella, extremely knowledgeable. Yeah. And he said, okay, we can see that your liver's taken a hit with these blood results, but you're obviously very active.
Because of the medication, though?
Well, that's what their endocrinologist was saying.
Yeah.
Medication, because it can affect your liver, etc.
Yeah.
So her liver markers went down big time.
Yeah.
And he said, you obviously look like you're fairly active, right? Are you having your blood tests within 72 hours or so of any like high intensity training? And she said, well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, anybody who gets a blood test who trains like with high intensity
It's affected after a week.
Well, that's exactly right. So the liver itself will have an artificial decline in its markers.
That's actually what the carnivore book said.
Yeah.
That you gave me.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. So Jen did that. So and then all of a sudden
took 3 days off of training.
Yeah, 3
and
days
then
off
got
of
my
training.
bloods done.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then, mate, the liver was perfectly
You're
fine.
fine.
So had she had not again advocated for herself, said no, I'm not getting my thyroid out just because she's saying I need my thyroid out.
Yeah.
Sought another avenue and had this like unbelievable advice that they don't want to tell you about.
Of course.
And call me a skeptic, mate, but there's one reason why they don't want to. Once your thyroid's gone, then you're on medication for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then it's just what do you call it? The dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You become a cash cow.
Exactly.
And so then how do you get it under control? I guess is the big question.
Well, the naturopath helped me tremendously.
Okay.
We just every week we would tailor something different. I didn't really take many supplements. It was more about food. He wanted to try the food route first. And they would do like saliva tests with me, really interesting little tests to be able to tweak. Okay, well, try eating this week and then come back and, tell me how you feel or notice how you feel. And he literally helped me figure it out. It was just tiny little food changes, bringing some carbs in, like white rice after training, things like that. Like,
so this is just
simple stuff.
Really just be kind of going back to diets as tools, but also fucking moderation.
Yes.
Yeah. Even the most ancestral diets still dug up what do you call it? Like from the ground, like taro and stuff. They still had it.
That's right.
But it was
berries.
And berries. Well, funnily enough, my masseuse that works on Dana and I had even said when I said I was going on this carnivore now, he said berries, just berries. No bananas. Bananas are the fucking worst thing ever. Yeah. But halftime at football, fair enough. But just in the morning with the yogurt, he goes, insulin spike straight away. So he goes, just berries, strawberries, blueberries, or any berry really, and you'll be fine. And he even said, maybe after a few months introduce them again.
Yes.
And I said, well, we'll see.
Yes.
Totally. No, what a journey.
Totally. Yeah.
And just like that, an hour goes by.
And now you weaned yourself off the thyroid medicine as well.
Yeah, and so you have weaned yourself off the thyroid now. So you're just what a trooper.
Yeah.
What the hell? Both of you.
Well, Jen, mate, she's honestly one of the most resilient people I've met in my life. In so many ways. Like, obviously moving here at a relatively young age, no family around here at all, and what she's gone through, and with the two autoimmune diseases, and the advocacy for herself to try and not be a slave to those conditions, and realistically, you wonder how many people out there just with that whole fear factor and don't advocate for themselves, go down, have the operations, when maybe there was another way. I mean, Jen could literally be sitting here right now. We could be having talking to you as in a podcast about how she has no bowel, right, and no thyroid,
absolutely,
and what that has done to her as a person.
100%.
I mean, I'm by no means the same person that I was before all of this happened.
No, you're a Spartan now. You've got this absolute resilient mind, and obviously, Shannon too has just got this thing that we can get to anything if we're together. It really is like the feel good podcast of the summer. Really, like it's just such a eye opener for me, for people watching. This is what I really wanted to people with autoimmune diseases to not feel isolated anymore, but for their partners to not feel helpless either. That they have such an equal role to play as well as with the patient. Well, guys, I want to thank you for coming on as
You're
well.
welcome.
Time just flies like that when it's a good conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
No, that's all right. Absolutely.